So, students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 11th April 2016. The first article is related to the accident in Kerala. Here, let us see the setup of temple management in India. So, the core of the temple management, inside and various activities of the temple are conducted by a temple management committee. So, they are kind of a trustee board. And from the state government side, an executive officer exists to implement these committee recommendations. So this executive officer will not exist at all the temples. So for every action, a temple management committee becomes the core with regard to the issues related or functions related to the temple. Now, the directions of the district administration, these are implemented through the executive officer in the temple. So if you see the entire Kerala tragedy, the district magistrate has given the directions to the temple management committee not to take up the fireworks in the temple. But based on a long tradition, so the fireworks are said to be the ingredient part of the temple culture in South India. So it has finally led to a huge accident which has taken the toll of 107 people. So in this context, this accident shows the poor safety planning and gross negligence of the temple management authorities and failure of the law enforcement agencies to take forward the directions of the district magistrate. And accountability has weakened at every level, that is executive officer level, temple management committee level, even at the police level. Everywhere the safety norms are violated. Now in this case, what we have to do? So the management of the temples are mass gatherings need a standard operating protocol in India. Now Kerala has this standard operating protocol. The major issue is the implementation of these SOPs. So it's a repetitive exercise. The accidents at the mass gatherings, if you take the Pushkar event in Godavari, or if you take in Rajasthan temple accident, everywhere the stampede is becoming a major accident. So more the panic of the people is leading to the deaths rather than the real accident itself. So the standard operating protocols, a disaster planning for evacuation and to avoid the stampede, and zero tolerance for violations and a strong commitment to safety, these need to be taken up. So once they are being planned, the implementation has to be meticulous. So pre-disaster drills to understand the efficacy of these operating protocols is also a critical part of this exercise. These have to be made mandatory for every mass gathering across India, and India can ill afford to take this mistake again. Now diabetes, detection and delaying of diabetes. Now you know that after China, the highest number of the people suffering from diabetes are in India. So what is the major reason for this diabetes? Now, as the central adiposity is increasing, the accumulation of the fat on the tummy is increasing, once a risk for the diabetes also proportionately increases. So in this case, the sedentary life habits which are growing in India and the genetic susceptibility of Indians and added to the dietary habits, especially the carbohydrate-rich food which we consume, these are the major reasons for diabetes. Now there are also certain avoidable causes which we are neglecting. One is related to gestational diabetes. So both the child and mother are at the increased risk of the diabetes due to gestational factors. So what India has to do with this? So between diabetes as a disease and then a normal person, intermediate stage exists where there will be higher sugar levels, but it will not be to the level of the diabetes. And at this stage, we need to identify our risk towards the diabetes and take the change in lifestyle. And next is the gestational diabetes, etc., which are growing in India, need a special focus. Coming to the liquor ban, you know that the Nitish Kumar in Bihar, now in Tamil Nadu, and added to that in various other states, we have this liquor ban as a political election maneuver. So what this liquor ban is all about, what are the positives and negatives of this? The first thing is, the liquor consumption is the major reason for the poverty. So liquor consumption is a part of many tribal cultures where the liquor which is brewed from this rice straw is been taken as for consumption. But however, as modern liquor has replaced this traditional liquor, it is majorly a reason for poverty and exploitation. So in this case, it decreases the domestic violence at the family level, and at the same time, the poverty, intergenerational transmission of the poverty can be shifted away. The reason is this thing. Now, the priority of the expenditure takes or shifts away from the consumption of the alcohol to the nutritional and educational needs of the family if the liquor is prohibited. But however, the liquor is more kind of an addiction. So in this case, anti-addiction strategies have to be taken up simultaneously. What are the problems on the other side? Now, the liquor prohibition is more an election stunt by many political parties. Even if you take the example of the Kerala, the prohibition of the liquor is implemented with necessary loopholes for it to continue. So majority of the cases, loss of the tourism value is cited as a reason for breaking the liquor prohibition. And also, with the existing system and excuses, implementing the liquor prohibition in complete is not possible. So on the other hand, so the states are also promising many of the populistic measures. They need revenue for that. And the most common revenue for the state is through the liquor. So the states have no incentive to ban the liquor. So these are the things which are exposed by these articles. Let's not get into the nuances of this article, just take this particular essence. The liquor ban, can it lead to women empowerment? Now coming to the greater role for India in Afghanistan. Now you all know that the Afghanistan, a reconciliation talks are going on between Afghanistan government and Taliban. But till now the Taliban did not come to the table. And already the Taliban itself is in factions. What is the right faction is going to come to the table is under big question. So in these cases, now as of now, United States, China, Afghanistan and Pakistan, these four countries are the parties to the talks. And majorly, bringing the Taliban to the table was the responsibility of the Pakistan. So in this context, Pakistan was a major failure till date. So America wants to make a shift in this strategy and give a greater presence to India in its Afghan policy. Now let us see the India-Afghanistan relationships. Since 2011, India-Afghanistan have a strategic partnership, but we did not have a security cooperation partnership in this. So it means India will not supply the lethal weapons to the Afghan state. But India has changed this strategy. In the present Modi's visit, it has given Mi-25 attack helicopters to the Afghan Air Force. That shows a clear shift from the India's strategy. So in this context, the US Special Representative for Afghanistan and Pakistan, Richard Olson, has visited India, and this visit signifies the change in the United States' stand. Till date, United States was wavering with regard to the India's role, keeping the Pakistan view in mind. Now, United States wants to have a greater role for India in the Afghan peace process. And coming to the India-Europe Free Trade Agreement, this is called as broad-based bilateral free trade agreement. So now, what the European Union want in this case? So the reduction in tariffs, especially with regard to the automobiles, wines and spirits, this is what is the European Union wants. What India is expecting? It is talking about non-tariff barriers, especially the sanitary and phytosanitary measures with regard to its agriculture. And the second is the data secure status. So if data secure status is given to India as a nation, then automatically its exports, service exports will increase, the software service exports, etc. And the third, recently, European Union banned 700 plus drugs which are certified through clinical trials by GVK. So this is also a bone of contention between these countries. And finally, the freedom of access for the skilled manpower, and also intra-company transfers, seamless intra-company transfers of its employees. So the free visa regime for this extent is being expected by India. So the first initiative was taken by the Indian side, where it is trying to lower the tariffs for the automobile sector. So the automobile sector, native automobile sector is opposing to this because it will kill the automobile sector in the bud itself. So some competitiveness has to be gained by the Indian automobile sector before it is exposed for the international competition. That's what is the Automobile Association of India is talking about. Coming to the Islamic State and social media. If you know, across the world, major recruitments for the Islamic State has come through the effective use of the social media. There is an established pattern how social media is used to spread its propaganda and also to attract the people with its, ideology. So in this context, the government, if it has to kill the presence of Islamic State, it has to bring in innovative control over the social media. So if you see the Harvard professor, I forgot her name, the only way to control the hatred spread over the internet is through a positive propaganda which is undertaken simultaneously. So an anti-remark against the remark will never produce the positive result. So I'll try to give her name. So it means that if Islamic State is propagating the violence as a tools, on a positive side, if you propagate the peace and the need for peace, educate the people about that, that will work out. This is what exactly the government is trying to do. So, a positive propaganda against the language of the violence of the Islamic State. And the second thing is, a strict monitoring of the social media websites is something suggested. If you remember the 3 days back, the government want the social media giants to have their servers rooted in India. So because then immediately government can get access to their data and information in real time. So all these reforms are integrated to each other. And coming to the problem of secretive tax havens. So don't read this article per se because there is no essence towards our examination. Already the yesterday's article which I have covered to you from Indian Express, it has many important points to it. That is automatic exchange of tax information. And the next is United States, it has a law where it tries to extract the tax information of its citizens from the other countries, that is called as United States Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. So US Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. So these steps can be taken up by India too. And added to that, India's major investment flows are from Mauritius. So the Mauritius is a route where there is something called round tripping is happening. What is this round tripping? Our money itself is going into the Mauritius and then it is coming back to India as an investment. So the black money of India will go into Mauritius through one or the other offshore company and it will come back to India, which is called the round tripping or treaty shopping. And we already have the double taxation avoidance agreement with the Mauritius. That's why if money which is taxed in Mauritius will not be taxed in India. So the Mauritius is the major route for tax avoidance. Our own black money which is going into Mauritius coming as a fresh investments with incentives from the government back into India. And coming to the Indian Express today, so there is Manish Tiwari's article, and this Manish Tiwari's article is about simultaneous elections to Lok Sabha and Legislative Assembly. The advantages side already we have discussed, it will decrease the expenditure and also improve the focus on the governance, that is good. But however, if you see the 83 and 172 articles, they say the tenure of the Lok Sabha and State Legislative Assembly is 5 years unless they are dissolved earlier. It means if they are dissolved less than 5 years, then the things will be different. This is what is this 83 172 says. Now in this context, if this has to be implemented, a constitutional amendment is necessary. So we have to ensure the 5 years of tenure for every legislature in India, either it is Lok Sabha or it is to the Legislative Assembly. So it means the no confidence motion will lose its utility. Or along with the no confidence motion, you also shall bring in a alternative confidence motion. So without showing an alternative for the government, no confidence motion cannot be introduced in the parliament. A motion of confidence has to exist along with the no confidence motion. That is one thing. And the second thing is, even if it is dissolved, if the elections are held in between, so they will not get a fresh lease of 5 years, but they will be getting the full lease of the remaining time of the Lok Sabha or else that particular legislative assembly. It means if it is dissolved after 3 years of constitution, the newly constituted Lok Sabha will get 2 years. It means that the House in effect will have only 5 years. This is the second thing. Our third thing is no confidence motion is passed. Then there is no other alternative formed. Then the country shall go into the president's rule. So these are the three alternatives which are being suggested. And the second argument over here is the federation, how it works. Now, as of now, the elections are only the way to check the representatives and also keep the government on a notice of the pulse of the citizens. So it means once there are elections are being held simultaneously till 5 years there are no elections, the government will not be in a position to understand the popular mind, and also it will risk going against to the popular wish. And third one is voter behavior. So the issues at the state and national level are different, and the people shall make the judgments accordingly. So when we conduct the elections simultaneously, one agenda will influence the other, and the voting behavior will accordingly change, which is not good for our federation. So these are the things which can be discussed over here. Now there is another article with regard to the interest subvention scheme. So the interest subvention scheme means it is giving the low interest rates to the agricultural credit. It has started in 2006-2007. As of now, the interest rate to the farmers is 4%. So the remaining 5% of the interest rate, it will be paid to the banks by the government. What are the problems over here? The banks do not pay the money in time. So that's why the government do not pay the money in time. So the banks are in a huge financial loss. And the second thing is, the farmers is getting the 4% credit. Now most of the agriculture in India is through absentee landlordism. So that's why if I own the land, I take this cheap credit and I deposit that with the bank itself, where I get around 7 to 8% of interest rate. It means taking the loan from the bank and again redepositing it. I am getting a very good advantage over here. Or I can go to the market and lend it at 24-30%. It means 20% I am making money as an intermediary. So most of the credit which is given to the farmers is getting misused as like this. And the second factor is this. Now, why can't we bring in farm insurance? For inputs, why can't we provide for the credit to the farmer? These are the various other things. Direct money transfers to the farmers rather than giving the interest subvention. So let the market forces take away the responsibility. These are the recommendations which are suggested. And coming to the farm error, there is another article which is related to the fertilizer subsidy. Now, in our existing scheme, the urea is excessively subsidized. It is leading to the irrational fertilizer use. And there is an imbalance in nutrition on the soil. So now, the fertilizer industry is also very unhealthy, and there is no incentive for improving the efficiency because they are under the safe hold of the government. So unless the fertilizer subsidy shifts towards the market prices, the concerns for the efficiency and the magic of the competition do not come up. Only when it comes up, when the market determined prices comes up for the fertilizer subsidy, the rationalization in the use of the fertilizer will not happen. If not, the agriculture, the farm level misuse will continue with regard to the fertilizers. This is what is recommended in this article. So thank you very much and all the best.